Okay, we talked about how there are four kinds of sentences in English, in the English language, and in a lot of other languages. We talked about two of them the last lesson that we did. We talked about declarative sentences, how they declare something, they just explain, they make a statement. We also talked about interrogative sentences, how they ended with a question mark and they asked a question. So we have declarative, interrogative, and today we're going to talk about imperative and exclamatory. These two kind of go together. Sometimes they're a little bit difficult to tell apart. And I'm going to show you my trick for telling them apart. So I'm going to write my name at the top. So imperative sentences can end with a period, or depending on how, what kind of an emergency situation it is, they can also end in an exclamation mark. So imperative in English means important. So an imperative sentence is one that gives a command. It means you're telling someone something important and you're not going to use a whole lot of words to do that. One way that I think of it is as dog talk. So as a dog owner, when I talk to my dogs and I'm asking them to do something, I don't use a whole lot of language to do that. I don't say, well, Percy, it would be really nice if you didn't eat that food I dropped. Instead, I say, stop eating that, right? I use a command, an imperative command that tells him, it starts out with a verb, stop, and it's very short and quick. So imperative sentences are commands. I think of them as being like dog talk. Now, imperative sentences can be really ending with an exclamation mark and emergency sentences. So for example, if let's say that the classroom was on fire and I said to you, go outside, I'm using an imperative sentence and it would probably end in an exclamation mark. Because if the classroom's on fire and I have to tell you to go outside, you're not smart enough to realize after all the fire drills we've done year after year after year, if you aren't realizing that you have to go outside and line up, then I'm probably going to need an exclamation mark on the end of it. Go outside now, right? If I'm saying, let's say that I brought a snack to eat and I'm going to share my snack with you. You asked if you could have, let's say I had some crackers and you said, can I have a cracker? I might slide the bag over to you and say, eat a cracker. In that case, it starts with the verb eat. I might say eat a cracker, please, because that's a little bit more polite, but it starts with a verb eat. And it's just very short. So imperative sentences are always short on words, short on verbiage. They're always little short commands. Now, an exclamatory sentence, just like it says, it's going to end in an exclamation mark, right? So usually they are sentences that are super fantastic and super exciting, and so they end with an exclamation mark. And they're even called exclamatory. I always think it's funny because a clam is an animal that doesn't make a lot of noise and doesn't make a lot of fuss, is kind of quiet and shy. And I just think it's funny that it's in the middle of an exclamatory, an exclamation. It's the opposite, right? So that's how I kind of remember it too. So a sentence that gives a command, I'm going to circle the word command, is an imperative sentence. It ends with a period or an exclamation point. A sentence that shows strong feeling, I'm going to circle that, shows strong feeling, is an exclamatory sentence. It ends with an exclamation point. So here are some examples. This is an imperative example. Discuss the fight for civil rights. Here's the verb right here. Whenever you see the verb at the beginning of the sentence, the action word is at the beginning of the sentence, you know that it's an imperative sentence because it sounds like dog talk. Here's an example of an exclamatory sentence. What a hard struggle it was. Well, it was. If we're talking about the civil rights movement, we're still fighting for civil rights now, right? So it deserves an exclamation mark. So what you're looking for is a command or a verb at the beginning, and you're looking for strong feeling, right? If you see strong feeling, it's exclamatory. If you see a command or a verb at the beginning, it is imperative, okay? So I'm going to do the first one, and then I'll let you do the second one, and you can see if you got it right or wrong, okay? And we'll alternate. Add the correct end punctuation and write imperative or exclamatory. It's kind of just like the other one that we did for declarative and interrogative, right? Okay, here we go. Read about, I'm seeing a verb. Read about special laws for African Americans. So that sounds like a command to me. It doesn't sound like the classroom's on fire command. It sounds just kind of like a normal. Maybe you're just giving someone instructions. Just to kind of clarify, another example, when you read cookbooks or you read recipes, or if I'm giving you ceramics directions, I usually am writing imperative sentences, right? A recipe is going to say, break the eggs, or crack the eggs, or it might say stir in the flour, or it might say fold in the flour, right? The verb is always going to come at the beginning. So this sentence is, because it has a verb at the beginning, it's imperative. And again, you're not going to spell them wrong. They want you to write them over and over and over so that you remember, because the more times you write something, the more you're going to remember it. That's why they're asking you to write it on each line. And so if you write it incorrectly, you're going to remember how to spell it the wrong way. So you have to be really careful to write it correctly. Okay, you're going to do number 2. Go ahead and read the sentence. Okay, if I were doing number 2, I would say how unfair those laws were! Exclamation mark. And I would call it exclamatory. Remember, our clam is in the middle. Tory. Okay. Number 3, we'll do it together. I see a verb right there. Boop. Find out why the laws changed. Again, it's not, the house is not on fire. It's just giving you a command to do something. So we're just going to put a period. And that one is imperative. Okay, number 4, you're doing that on your own, and then we'll correct it. Okay, hopefully you saw that learn is a verb. And if you see the verb at the beginning, you know that it is imperative. And again, this is just learn about freedom marches. It's not an exclamation mark. Okay, let's do the next one together. How inspiring the marches were. That sounds like an exclamation to me, so it's exclamatory. Also, I'm not seeing a verb in the beginning. Okay, number 6 you're doing on your own. We're putting an exclamation mark. Some people were so courageous. That is very true in the civil rights movement. There were members of a group called SNCC. There were freedom riders that rode buses. to end segregation in the southern part of the United States. There were a lot of very brave people that worked to get civil rights. Okay, we're doing this one together. Dr. King was an awesome speaker. So I'm guessing that that doesn't start with a verb. It's probably an exclamatory sentence. So I'm going to end it with an exclamation mark. All right. You're doing number 8. Go ahead and read it. Imagine having thousands of people hear your words. So I'm guessing that that's exclamatory because there's no verb at the beginning. I mean, there kind of is, but it's not the verb in the sentence. Imagine is a verb, but it's not the main verb of the sentence. I think having is the main verb. Okay, let's do number 9 together. Think about how much, boop, 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 boop. Think about how much our country has changed. I would put an exclamation mark on that. It's imperative. Our country has changed a lot over time, and we still need to make more changes. But we're on a better road than we were on in previous years, 100 years ago and 100 years before that. All right, let's look at the last one. You're doing that one on your own. What an important part of our history. That definitely sounds exclamatory to me. Okay. So I hope this helped. We now know that there are 4 types of sentences in English, in Spanish, in French, and probably in other languages that I don't know. So there are 4 different types of sentences. That makes it really simple, doesn't it? That there are only 4. And so when you're writing sentences, you just have to know about these 4. And they're the 4 tools that you're going to use in your toolkit for writing sentences. The first kind of sentence is called declarative. It ends in a period. Second type of sentence is called interrogative. It ends with a question mark. The third type of sentence is imperative. It's a command. It can end in an exclamation mark or a period. And the last type of sentence, which we use pretty rarely, is called exclamatory, and it ends in an exclamation mark. When you're writing, we don't use this type of sentence too often when you're writing, unless you're writing in your diary and you're writing about your girlfriend or boyfriend and how you went to a dance and right? Most writing doesn't have a lot of exclamation marks. So we don't use exclamatory sentences too often. All right, hope this helped you and hope you can remember what the 4 types of sentences are. Thanks a lot. Talk to you later.